Okay. A lot better now?
Yes.
Cool. Cool. Well, welcome to the we can start from the beginning, but welcome to the Free Hype Workshop. Tonight's conversation will be over credit one-on-one. Um, Thank you guys for joining again here for our August programming. Getting the office situated there, but just happy to be back in this month. This month is the month of August. That is, it's also Black Business Month, so definitely want to salute and highlight all of our Black businesses and give them ways, provide different ways for us to move forward and build better businesses. Tonight we have Tyrish Garrett, a UPS senior pricing analyst, and also a mentor of mine through turning dreams into reality. He's also an Alabama State alum and Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity brother. So Tyrish is gracious enough, Mr. Tyrish Garrett, to talk to us about credit. He's someone who has poured into me about the matter, and looking forward to learning a lot tonight. And I hope you guys do too. So, Mr. Tyrish, if you could just maybe start us off with just what is credit?
You know, it's really simple, Sean. Credit is your ability to borrow money, to access goods or services with the understanding that you're going to pay it back. And the key is paying it back. That way the creditor knows that you're trustworthy. Basically, if you go and you take out a loan or you put something on a credit card or something along those lines, based on the terms, whether you have to pay every 30 days or you take out a loan for the next year, 2 years, or a car loan, installment loan, or whatever the case may be, if that payment is due on the 30th of every month, the creditor expects you to pay it on the 30th of every month. So, it's like I said, it's accessing goods and services, but with that understanding that you're going to pay them in a timely manner.
Definitely. And the timely manner part, I feel like is a huge factor. What are the three major, or what are three major reporting agencies that we should know about?
You broke up, Sean. Could you repeat that question or that statement?
What are three major reporting agencies? Whoa.
Well, and I heard that question. There are three, and I actually found out there was a fourth, but you have Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and then I found out about a fourth one called Innovis. I'm not too familiar with them, but from what I understand with these reporting agencies, they all pretty much report about the same. I'm sure they have their different analytics of monitoring your credit and the way they report it. Excuse me, but for the most part, they should be fairly close in terms of your credit score of how they're reporting. I think I shared with you recently, we just refinanced about a month or so ago and got my credit report back, and all of them, the three main reporting agencies, were within about 6 to 9 points of each other. So there really wasn't a huge difference in the overall score.
Okay. And what would you say has the biggest impact on credit scores? What are they? What are these agencies looking for?
Well, let me say this first. What is a good credit score?
Yeah.
Your credit scores range anywhere from 300, I think, up to 850. And I think the average good credit score is somewhere around 670 and above. I would say a great is, around 750 and above, and excellent, anything over 800. Um, but to answer your question, I think, I'm sure they use similar criteria, the three different agencies. They may just put more weight on one thing versus another. But some of the things, or the major things that impact your credit, and I was able to even pull this information up off of my credit card because it gives me a free credit report. And I'm sure all these things are similar, which you had the opportunity to go out there and look at your score if you have credit cards, or even just pull it for free just to kind of see. But the main thing that impacts your credit score, your tree. Based on what I pulled down from my credit card, the payment history impacted my score 40%. And basically, that was just me paying on time. The second largest impact is your credit history, which is the length of time you've had credit. Me, I have the very first credit card from when I was on campus. And we're talking 20-something years ago. So I've had that card for about 25 years, somewhere around there. But, it wasn't always rosy when it came to credit history. They come on campus. Back then they used to have fairs. I don't think they can do these things anymore, but they used to have like a circus event where there'd be companies out there, Chase, Visa, Discover. Yeah. It was like a carnival. Everything was so-called free. And, you sign up for all this stuff, and next thing you know, I had 5 credit cards, and, didn't really know what I got myself into. But fortunately, over time, I've always been conscious about my credit, but I realized that I needed to get rid of some of these cards. And I have 2 today. And like I said, the oldest one I have is the very first one from campus 25 years ago. And then I have another Visa that I use, that I've had, I don't know, for years as well. I closed everything else, and but it says over that time, that 25 years, I paid my debts on time. And to be honest, fortunately, I've never been late. And maybe I just had to pay the minimum to get by, but I never let any of them go late. And like I said, the credit history, that accounts for about 21% of what impacts your score. Your credit usage, that's other 20%. You may have, you may have, we'll just call it $1,000 credit limit on the card that you have. But say you have you're at 70% credit utilization, so to speak. That impacts your score by 20%. Where you want to be with your credit utilization, somewhere down around $300, between $250, $300, below 30%. And that impacts or assists your credit score in terms of it rising. You have your total balances. That accounts for 11%. This is basically reducing your outstanding debt overall. Me, I have, like I said, the 2 cards, a house. Fortunately, I don't have a car payment right now, but the more I reduce those loans or that credit debt, the more it has an impact on my score. The one thing, another thing that impacts your score is the credit check. You know, people, and you know, and I didn't know this until I started working at a bank years ago. And ironically, I worked in the collections department, so I learned a lot of things about credit back then. But credit checks, you know, the one piece of advice that I would give individuals regarding credit: pull your credit before you even go somewhere. Already have an idea of what your credit score is, because what happens is you go to bank A, they deny you. You go to bank B, they deny you. C, D, E, and F, they deny you. The more inquiries you have on your credit report, that has an impact on your score. It's a small impact, but it's an impact. You should, you know, in my opinion, you should already know before you even go. You know, and like I said, that represents about 5%. And then your total outstanding balance, that represented about 3%. And that goes back to your credit utilization and all of that. So it's kind of like a double hit, you know, in maintaining that low balance.
Yeah.
So those are, you know, some overall things that may impact your credit score. And, you know, I know some of these agencies are a little different, but that gives you an idea.
Yeah. Man, the fact that timeliness counts for 40% is a huge feat, you know. And that's something I think a lot of us maybe don't know, for sure.
Yeah.
So how do you establish and maintain credit?
You know, one of the things that, you know, like I said, when I started out, I had those 5 credit cards. The other part of that is I had 2 student loans. So really, I'm, you know, I got 7 different loans, and I'm working in the mall. And you know, and then fortunately, I got a job at a local bank, which paid a little bit more. But the one thing that I did was took all of those small balances, because my cards back then, they were either $500 to $1,000. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of money now, but back then when you're working in the mall, and we know what the malls pay, and we talking 25 years ago, you know, I wasn't making a ton of money. But the one thing I decided was I'd pay those smaller balances off. I think I got that job at the bank, which paid a little bit more, and I paid 1 or 2 of them off, and I closed them. 500. And then, fortunately, I started. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of money now. I started working for UPS, and the first job that I had required me to travel, and they were paying mileage. And I was just traveling all over the state. And, you know, some months I'd make $600, some months I'd make $1,000, some months, you know, $800. I took all of that money and started paying it toward my credit cards and my student loans. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I had a ton of student loans compared to a lot of people. By the time I finished my master's, I had those 2 student loans. I only had about $6,000 in student loans, because I would take the minimum, because I knew I'd have to pay it back at some point. So, but what I did was took that travel pay and paid it towards some of the debt that I had before I would even go out and spend money. In terms of establishing credit, what I did also was I got with a gentleman at the bank who I had a good relationship with, and I started out small. I'd go and borrow $500. He'd do it like an installment loan, and then I'd pay it back. And then, funny story, even with my wife's wedding ring, I finally went down there to him and I told him, I said, hey man, you know, I think I'm about ready to get married. I want to get this ring, blah, blah, blah. And he wrote me out an installment loan for the ring.
Wow.
So and of course I paid it back. And now I'm stepping up a little further in what I'm asking for, but I'm paying it back timely. By the time before I left the bank, I needed to get a new vehicle, little Honda Accord, nothing major. I had gotten to the point where I went to the dealership, already knew what my credit score was and all of that, and I could just call him and say, hey, Donald, I'm looking at this car, blah, blah, blah. And all he told me was, get the car, drive it down here and sign the paperwork. But I had to establish that trust with him. You know, and granted, yeah, I worked at the bank, so I may have had a little bit of leeway when I first started. But I did the same thing once I moved from Montgomery to Birmingham. When I got other installment loans, I developed a relationship at my local credit union with a guy, and they did the same thing. They just cut me a check and said, go get the car, and we'd roll, you know, just like that. So, you know, establishing that local connection is a huge part of it. But what you have to do is make sure that you pay back what you say you're going to pay back at the time that it's due. That's the key.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge. That's huge. Um, what would you say? So, you know, you've established a good set of credit. And now you've shown and proven that you've maintained it, or that you can maintain it. What are the benefits of good credit and maybe some of the shortcomings of bad credit?
Benefits, you know, in simple terms, you save money. And what I mean is by the interest rate that you may get, say, on a loan for a car, a loan for your house, or whatever other services. You know, you may apply for a credit card and get a lower different types of things. It boils down to for good credit, you saving as much money as possible. And you know, and I know you, I shared with you when we refinanced this house, you know, the good thing was the credit, I wasn't worried about credit. My wife and I were able to do everything from the house. Time we went to a bank or went somewhere, as a matter of fact, the only place we went was to the, we had our ducks in a row. Everything was fine. And when we refinance with our credit scores, you know, not 4 years off of about 45 to 50 grand over the life of that loan. So, you know, I know you and I were talking about individuals at the time of the conversation, and you have to work your way up to these type things. But those steps that I talked about earlier is how you get to this point to be able to, you know, walk in with a 750, 800 plus credit score, get the lowest rate possible, and save yourself, you know, 45, 50 grand over time.
Yeah.
And of course, we know the bad credit is just the opposite. And just to give you an example, I was talking with my son years ago when we bought him a Honda Accord, and you know, I walk in the dealership, I already know what I have, and the guys offer me, I think it was like 3% or whatever the case may be. I've already got my financing set up, and I already know what I'm going to pay, which was lower than what he was offering. And of course, he eventually ran my credit, and he comes back with a 0.9 interest rate. And what that did was the payment on my son's car, the Honda Accord, it was $280. 285, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But of that 285, I was only paying $20 at the start of the loan in interest,
Goodness gracious.
which which is significant. And I think after I made the first payment, it dropped to like 19 and some change. So that, those are the benefits of having good credit. You know, it's a you can't it's a process you can't rush, but if you do it right, it's a process that can save you tons of dollars over the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Um. So let's say, like in this case, I see we had a comment here from my brother Davon Dixon from Tiffin University. Davon said, he says, my credit is terrible. Please guide me. Um, what's the difference? And me and my nephew have had a brief conversation about this as well. He works at a bank. What's the difference between a credit repair company versus repairing the credit yourself?
You know, and I'll say this, fortunately, I've never had to deal with a credit repair company, but what I've learned over all of this time, and I want people to stick a pin in this, it's easy to get in debt. It is difficult to get out. It's going to take some time. You just take the country, for instance, you know, even before the pandemic, you know, we're in debt up to our neck, and it's going to take some time. But what you have to do, and this is, I wouldn't recommend a credit repair company, because I'm a believer in doing it yourself and educating yourself. Because the more you know about your own credit and how to manage it, you will benefit from it in the long run. A lot of the times you can call some of these places. You may have a doctor bill from 5 years ago. That's $100. You know, they might, reduce it to 50. I don't know. But clearing up your past will help you so much in going forward. And sometimes, you may have to take a step back. I couldn't wear the flashiest things and buy all, the latest Jordans or, the latest clothes or whatever the case. I had to clean up what was behind me in order for me to go forward. And in doing that, I was able to educate myself a lot more on what credit really is and how to manage it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would agree with that theory. Um, if at this time, if anyone has any questions that you would like to ask, please, or comments, if you just want to, or make a connection with Tyrish here, definitely feel free to unmute yourself if you're on the Zoom call, or if you're watching through Facebook, feel free to drop a comment. We'll give it a few seconds here. Few seconds. Thank you, Tyrus, by the way, for this. Always good to learn. We've talked about credit previously, but it's a lesson that I can't get enough of.
You've broken up on me, Sean. I can't hear you.
Oh, was just saying thank you. I was just saying thank you.
Can you hear me, Sean?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yep, I was just saying thanks. Saying thank you. And was asking anyone if they had any questions, to definitely feel free to unmute themselves at this time.
Sure.
Mhm.
and I guess why individuals are getting ready to, maybe ask a question, you know, like I said at the end, this is, if you're in debt, you've got to be in it for the long haul. You put yourself there, you've got to work yourself out. There's no easy way other than repaying what you owe someone else, a creditor. So, but during that time, just make sure you educate yourself along the way and understand what you've done in the past, like I said, in order to move forward.
Definitely. I see Ronald here has a question. Hey Ronald, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Sean? Yeah,
Doing
I just like to ask Mr. Garrett, what do you consider good debt? It is a such thing, or what would you consider like good debt?
With I guess you could probably go a couple of different ways with good debt. Um, the way I look at it, something that you will eventually own, whether it be property, your house, something of value that has resale. You can resell for a profit or whatever the case may be. And I think we all have an idea of what bad debt may be. Buying those things that are going to run out within the next, 30 days, 6 months, or whatever the case. And, I don't want to be targeting anybody, but, tennis shoes, for example, things of that nature. In my opinion, I would consider it bad debt unless you can pay it off. What I do, I put them on my Visa. I get the points and I pay it off in about 2-3 days because I knew I already had the money. I get the points as a benefit. And, just to give you an idea, I haven't paid for my daughter's Christmas in, 6, 7, 8 years because I've gotten all the points back off of my credit card.
That's game.
Yeah, and Sean, one thing, and I don't know if I mentioned this with debt. If you have various limits of debt, whether it be $300-400 here, there, $1,000 there, 5,000 here. One of the things I would recommend is starting out paying off the smaller debt first, and then once that smaller debt has been paid off, move those funds to paying off your larger debts, so forth and so on, and that way you can get yourself back into a manageable position.
Well, that's something that I've just taken on myself. I want to get my bigger debt, get the interest down a little bit and get those minimum payments down a good amount. So I was kind of chunking at that, but now that it's pretty manageable, now I'm going back to the smaller debt and really, doubling down on that. It's been working for me so far. So far, for sure.
Good deal.
Yes.
Good deal. And that's the thing too. What you just said is a key point. You've got to have a strategy when you're doing this.
Definitely. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I do want to thank you again, Tyrus, for taking the time to speak with us today. You all can check out this workshop if you happen to join at a later time, or if you just want to revisit to catch these gems again. You can definitely go to freehype.net. Follow us on Instagram at Free Hype, at Free Hype on Facebook. We'll be posting and resharing this content as well as our YouTube channel. Just search Free Hype on YouTube and feel free to subscribe. Please subscribe. We're looking to get 100 subscribers and we're currently 69 away. 59 away, sorry. We're at 41 subscribers, so 59 away. And looking to reach that milestone. We have some Free Hype gear that's in our store. But thanks again, Tyrish. Oh, also go to Turning Dreams TD2R.org and purchase It Was All a Dream, the book. Check us out. Tyrish is the author. I have a mini little blurb in the back, but gems in there as well, life lessons for sure. So thanks again, Tyrish, for joining us tonight. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
See you guys. Good night.